With Boruto 2 Blue Vortex Chapter 16, the shipping war battle between Sarada versus Class Rapid is heated up in the fight for Boruto's heart. But given how tense things are in universe, it is, as you would expect, not the primary focus of the chapter. So we open up the chapter going right back to that time skip era following defeat of Sasuke, but this time we're jumping ahead after the scene in chapter 13 where Kashin Koji agrees to train Boruto. Keeping true to his word, Kashin Koji starts explaining to Boruto how space-time ninjutsu works, revealing that what Shinobi referred to as being space-time ninjutsu is really just a basic power for the Otsutsuki clan, and that while Boruto's been shown being able to use this very basic power, it's always been as a fluke because Boruto cannot control it. But that hope it isn't lost. Kashin Koji has seen the future, and he tells Boruto that he will one day learn space-time ninjutsu, but in the future timeline that he saw it occur, it took Boruto 6 years to learn to do so. This was a little refreshing to see because one thing that Boruto's gotten a lot of flack for from fans, for right or for wrong, is that he learns jutsu way too fast. A lot of fans expect him to stumble and bumble his way to learn jutsu like Naruto, even though those same fans have no problem with Minato being stated in the Minato one-shot manga to be a prodigy who learns jutsu super fast by Kushina, and Boruto numerous times has been compared to Minato and Sasuke. But in short, Boruto chooses to learn space-time ninjutsu and do so the Shinobi way and not the Otsutsuki way. Boruto does this by making metal objects with this chakra, marking those objects, and then using sensory jutsu to sense out their location, which allows him to teleport to whatever he's marked. When he first started training in the future to learn this, Boruto started out with kunai and shuriken, basic ready-made ninja tools, and even used Sasuke's sword at one point, doing his best to mimic the flying Raijin that his grandfather Minato made famous. But Boruto ended up doing to the flying Raijin the same thing he did with the Rasengan. Just as he made his own lightning release vanish from Rasengan by mistake when attempting to learn the Rasengan, Boruto ended up making his own variant of the flying Raijin, thus making Boruto's jutsu its own jutsu despite it operating mostly the same, which is in line with what Kishimoto told us in 2015 for Boruto's character. Instead of following all the steps from A to Z, Boruto learns steps A through E, and then he skips to Z because he thinks he understands enough of the basics to jump ahead. Boruto knows the shortcuts and isn't afraid to exploit them. So what happens here is that when Boruto hears from Kashin Koji that a future version of himself was able to make his own variation of the flying Raijin without actually being taught the flying Raijin, Boruto goes like, my god, I really am a genius. And this leads to a training montage where we see future Boruto training to learn the jutsu and going through the trial and error fashion. And Kashin Koji reveals to Boruto that future Boruto would do things like mark spoons and forks and decorations. If it was metal, Boruto would use as a marker, which is pretty clever because no one would think twice about these ordinary household items. However, that's where we learn one of the weaknesses that Boruto in the future had to train to overcome. At first, he needed the items that he marked to be in his direct line of sight, which for obvious reasons, it makes it a jutsu that is pretty easy to figure out the weakness if you use it too much. Koji explains that over time, Boruto discovered the weaknesses to his flying Raijin. If he marked two places that were too close to each other, like say a tree stump on one side and a tree trunk that is only a few feet away from it, Boruto wasn't going to be able to control which marker he teleported to, which as you can see, that's another problem. Look back at what Minato did when he took down those stone ninja in the third ninja war and he made them retreat. He had over 80 kunai marked, ready to be thrown, likely in close range to each other, and he could teleport back and forth between them as he saw fit with no issues. But future Boruto, he doesn't have that skill, which led to him having to think outside the box. Boruto over time decided to use metal symbols specifically made into various shapes, the very same ones that we see on the clothes that Boruto wears, in order to make it easier to lock in on his chakra signature. All he has to do is sense out his chakra and visualize what shape he wants to teleport to, and he's able to teleport there across long distances. It still requires work on his end. He can't do it in a split second in the way that Minato and Tobirama did, which is why Boruto still has to make the concentration hand seal when he uses the jutsu, but he at the very least has found a creative solution around the problem that he had. But there's yet another weakness for Boruto. The further away that he teleports, the more time he needs to concentrate, which makes Boruto realize that the training ahead of him is about to be difficult, which that makes sense. Even being given the answers to the test doesn't mean anything when you still gotta learn the steps in order to get get to the answer. Basically, you have to show your work. This is where Kashin Koji takes things a step further to explain to Boruto how dangerous it is, what it is they're doing. He tells him, think about it for a second. The future you needed 6 years of trial and error to learn this stuff. Yet here you're able to figure out how to use the jutsu and avoid all the pitfalls in only a few minutes of conversation. Don't let that relax you. You still need to double down on your training, and this is where we see the growth in Boruto's character. He uses flying Raijin, and he tells Koji that he is committed to learning the steps one by one, no matter how long it takes, which shows that he's finally learned what Sasuke was trying to teach him. There are no shortcuts. Shortcuts, they get you sloppy results that can fool the untrained eye, but ultimately they will be your downfall when you face the wrong enemy. We then jump forward a little further where Boruto and Koji, they're back in Orochimaru's hideout, where Koji explains to Boruto the importance of keeping the information about the future to themselves, something that Boruto doesn't understand. At his heart, Boruto is very much Naruto's child. If there's something that he can do to help someone, he will do it, no hesitation. So if you tell Boruto that class rep is going to be run over by a bus at 1 p.m. tomorrow because she doesn't look both ways before crossing the street, Boruto will tell her wait until later to cross the street to prevent that from happening. Koji's basically telling him, due to the way that time flows, if you tell people what is coming, it will alter the flow of time. In short, it messes with this 10 directions power. He sees the future, but the future is not set in stone. And even though he sees all possible futures, when you inform someone of what's coming too much in detail, they will behave in a way that changes their behavior and it alters the future he saw, which makes unforeseen possible branches come into existence, which means that he can't accurately predict what's going to happen next. He's trying to mitigate the risk as much as possible, control the variables, if you will. And that makes sense. He told Boruto, this is the darkest possible timeline, where you save Sasuke, but Jura kills you. If we're going to save Sasuke, but keep you alive, we have to play our cards very carefully. It's the weakness to 10 directions. He can see all these possible outcomes, but if Boruto changes things as they walk down this path they're on, and these new branches get made, he won't be able to predict what happens next. That's why Koji is making it a point to tell Boruto only as much as he needs to know, because too much knowledge, it will destroy the future they're trying to preserve, because he is liable to act in a way that would be differently than how he otherwise would. If they are to get to a point in time, the good future where they can win, they can't let too many people know too much about what's going on. And Koji tells Boruto that their job is to support from the shadows as much as possible to ensure that we get to that good ending. Koji basically tells Boruto that he and Koji, they are two sides of the same coin in this equation, which is fitting. Boruto wanted to be the Shadow Hokage, and now he's being thrust into that position. Koji is preparing Boruto to become the version that we see in the present timeline, who is bottling up his emotions. He's being cold and calculated. He's being forced to bury the old, fun-loving, big-hearted Boruto. If the future's to survive, that Boruto has to stay hidden, no matter how painful that experience is. And not too many people have picked up on how much Boruto's hurting. This leads to Koji telling Ada, speaking out in the open, I know that you're going to be seeing this at some point. And it's basically Koji putting her on notice too. The information you just heard, if we're going to survive, you cannot share this information. And it makes sense. Konoha has been using Ada as a surveillance camera to pick up on all the extra details and plan. But now she has to be careful with what information she gives. And she, at the very least, has to understand the assignment enough to not share right away when Sarada and class rep are pushing her for more info. She merely tells him that Boruto, he has his reasons. Good ones for not telling him the truth about his intentions, trying to avoid putting people who he cares about in danger, and this one statement by Ada, it starts the cat fight between the two girls who are most often used as ship bait for Boruto's heart. After Sarada expresses her frustration that Boruto's once again trying to do everything alone, suffering for the sake of others, a callback to Boruto Naruto Next Generation's chapter 80, where she learns about omnipotence and she openly asks, why does it always have to be Boruto who suffers? She wants to help Boruto, but Boruto is carrying that cross on his back alone yet again, which leads to class rep stepping in and preparing to drop a nuke on the whole scene. She tells Sarada that it is better for them not to get involved, to not chase after Boruto, and she doubles down on it when Sarada says that Boruto's fighting enemies too powerful to fight all alone. And she correctly says that if Boruto had fought alone a few chapters ago, he would have been killed, and she's not wrong. Full power Rasengan Uzuhiko, it is strong. At almost full power, he was almost able to completely destroy Hidari, but in order to use that level of power, he he had to keep his feet on the ground, which makes him vulnerable for attack. It's a jutsu that he can't use at near full power unless he has support, which that is what Sarada provides him. Class rep hears all that and she says that their mere presence is why Boruto got shot, which she isn't wrong here. However, it is important to note that Boruto got shot not due to Sarada and Sumire, but instead because of Kawaki, but that doesn't stop her from basically telling Sarada in so many words that she needs to be considering how Boruto feels and to use her brain a little bit, which is what she herself is doing, and she expected Sarada to do the same thing. She says that she can tell Boruto's hurting, being closed off from the people he cares for, and as much as she wants to speak to him, she knows that she can't, and that's where the nuke finally drops. Class rep tells Sarada not only is she refusing to consider Boruto's feelings, she isn't even considering Sumire's feelings at all. In short, that hug from chapter 5 where Sarada rushes forward and she hugs Boruto, class rep, she didn't forget it, and she was every bit as hurt as her expression showed. She felt betrayed by Sarada because she knows that Sarada knew that she liked Boruto, which is a callback to Boruto's vessel arc where she asked Sarada if it bothered her that girls like Boruto, and class rep outright let it be known that, hey, it bothers her a lot. The way that Sarada ran into Boruto's arms, it hurt her, and she took that personally. While she does understand why Sarada did it, and she does make it known like she wants to understand Sarada's feelings for Boruto more in so many words, but right now, class rep's letting it be known that she suffered emotional damage from Sarada hugging Boruto, which leaves Sarada speechless, and Ada, being my spirit animal, as she's so caught up in watching all this drama, the unintentional yet potentially intentional gaslighting by Sumire here, and Ada, she just wants to see it all play out. This leads us back to class rep running out the room, leaving Sarada bewildered, looking stunned at her back, while Shikamaru is asking to meet with Ada. The elders are speaking with the feudal lord, and he is every bit as you would expect, pissed off that both Boruto and Sasuke have not been killed 3 years later, asking why didn't they kill Boruto when they had him captured, and the feudal lord starts throwing his weight around, which reminder, he bankrolls the village, basically telling the elder, if you can't kill Boruto and you can't kill Sasuke for the death of Naruto, someone who is the feudal lord's good friend, there's gonna be repercussions. Meanwhile, when Shikamaru shows up, Ada tells Shikamaru when he's complaining about having to meet her face to face that he should consider himself lucky that they're speaking face to face, because he would have gotten in trouble with the sensory unit because she knows that he helped Boruto escape, but she also informs him about the birth of Ryu and the fact that Gar, he's been sealed away in Shinki's Iron Sand, but if Ryu ever reaches Gar, then he can undo the seal and eat the Kazekage. Ada then reveals that she has a risk to using her Senrigan now, because when she does so, Mamushi is able to view her right back whenever she uses the Senrigan Eye, and she doesn't know what would happen if she tried to watch Mamushi and the others in real time, only that she knows she is in danger, which is why she only watches Mamushi and the others a few hours after events transpire, when it appears to be safe, which is another small nugget that Mamushi is indeed a threat to Ada moving forward, and this is a really good introduction of a neutralizer to Ada's Senrigan power. Once Ada calls Shikamaru on letting Boruto escape, she tells him, don't worry about it, I'm not going to rat you out to anybody because I still need you, and she also reveals that Boruto's still in her mind. A few chapters ago, she was shown wanting to speak to Boruto, and she's doubling down on it now, meaning that cat fight between Sarada and class rep, it was almost a three-way, a triple threat for the heart of Boruto, because if Sarada hugging Boruto got that kind of reaction on class rep, you can only imagine what the older woman in the room expressing her interest in Boruto would do, which is a reminder, Ada is 4 years older than both Sarada and class rep. Ada is 19 years old right now, and if Boruto's a man of culture, he's definitely picking Ada. It's then that Ada refocuses on everything by saying that Kawaki, he's working with Boruto for the time being, and it's in Shikamaru's best interest to stay out of their way. That's when Kashin Koji's toad appears on the back of Ada's neck, and he says he wants the team of Sarada, Konohamaru, and Mitsuki sent to the land to win because Ryu and Matsuri be there, and they also need to get 2 ninja from the hidden sand village in order to work with them. He tells Shikamaru, hey, figure it out, get the team together, say whatever you gotta do, but he also warns Shikamaru, under no circumstances do you ever allow Himawari to leave the village, because if that happens, she's gonna die at the hands of Jura. Now, this is where you might be asking, why doesn't Jura just walk into the village full of pain and just kill everybody and say, bring me Himawari? Well, the reason why is what Kashin Koji tells us. Apparently, when Jura came to Konoha, he was so impressed with what he saw in Konoha that he doesn't want to battle anyone inside of the village, which is code for Jura was so impressed by the books that he saw there that he doesn't want to damage any of the books, which either means that my man saw some great philosophical works or he found Jiraiya's pervy books. But the idea of Jura walking into a bookstore to start a reading club, it is hilarious. But Kashin Koji tells Shikamaru basically, hey, if this guy wants to go into a bookstore, you let him. You treat him like the most important customer ever. You don't piss him off or else everyone dies. And he tells Shikamaru, hey, inform all the teams being dispatched. If they ever run into Jura outside of Konoha, run away immediately. Flee on sight. Do not pass go. When Koji then commends Shikamaru for going against his village in spite of the risk that it puts Shikamaru in, he also tells Shikamaru to follow his heart moving forward. Very vague words. This makes Ada start repeating the words in her head, and then we transition over to the Land of Wind, where Sarada, Mitsuki, and Konohamaru, they have arrived just outside the Hidden Sand Village, joined by Araya and Yodo, showing off their new time skip designs, with Araya no longer showing that full body mask that he did. He's the puppet master from the tuning exams in part 1. Instead, he is proudly showing off that facial hair that came from the guy hitting puberty during the time skip, which is a reminder because I've seen people confused why he has a beard. Boys can start growing facial hair as early as 11 years old, and in the case of people like me, you can start getting a goatee and etc. at 14, 15, 16. And Yodo, she now has her jacket from part 1 completely undone, showing off a tube top and wearing low-rise jeans, and she's wearing vintage rework waist straps. That's not a thong like people on Annie Twitter have been incorrectly saying. She's not in her only Kunoichi saga like people are joking. The low-rise jeans and rework waist straps are part of a fashion trend that came back into style back in 2021, and Ikimoto, being the fashion nut that he is, he's adding it to the manga like he's done with other trends with Boruto characters, like Boruto wearing the belts the way he does, Kawaki with those jackets, Sarada, Chocho, class rep, Himawari, and etc. Back to the story though, we then end off where we see the team travel across the desert in the Land of Wind, and Yodo, she's taking the time to start making some girl talk with Sarada, and she does so at the wrong time possible. She's asking Sarada, hey, you look different. You changed your look for a guy. I know you like somebody. Who is he? And she's making Sarada flustered, and the timing after class rep just blew up Sarada's spot. Is hilariously bad timing. Yet we don't linger on that for too long, thank God, because Konohamaru spots Matsuri and Ryu having killed one of Kashin Koji's toads, and the pair, they are openly stating that the toad is a sign they're getting closer to Boruto. In the story, it leaves us off wondering if this group of shinobi is going to engage with Ryu and Matsuri, which of course will happen in the next chapter. While the chapter itself is over, your time here on Naruto Explained doesn't have to be over, so click here to watch more Naruto Explained content